Moneyball and the Art of Decision-Making. How it started. Richard Thaler is an influential economist known for his work in behavioral economics. He was born on September 12, 1945, in East Orange, New Jersey, USA. Thaler earned his Ph.D. in economics from the University of Rochester in 1974. Thaler is perhaps best known for his pioneering work in behavioral economics, which explores how psychological factors affect economic decision-making. His research challenges the traditional economic assumption that individuals are perfectly rational and consistently self-interested in their decision-making processes. Instead, Thaler's work emphasizes that people often make decisions that are influenced by cognitive biases, social factors, and emotions. In 2017, Richard Thaler was awarded the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences for his contributions to behavioral economics. The Nobel Committee highlighted his work in integrating psychology into economic theory, showing how human traits systematically affect individual decisions and market outcomes. In 1977, Richard Thaler was only 32 and an assistant professor at University of Rochester when he heard that two famous psychologists from Israel were going to be at Stanford University. As an economist, he was interested in understanding the behaviors of people in making economic decisions. Meeting Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky would change his life, as the science of psychology combined with economics would render a new field called behavioral economics, and it gave the world a fresh look at decision-making. What he produced. The Undoing Project, A Friendship That Changed Our Minds, is a 2016 nonfiction book by American author Michael Lewis. The Undoing Project explores the close partnership of Israeli psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, whose work on heuristics, simple rules, in judgment and decision-making on errors of the humane psyche. Daniel Kahneman was born on March 5, 1934, in Tel Aviv, Israel, and has made profound contributions to our understanding of human decision-making processes. Kahneman began his career studying psychology and later collaborated closely with Amos Tversky, a cognitive psychologist. Together, they developed groundbreaking research that challenged traditional economic theories of rational decision-making. Their work laid the foundation for behavioral economics by demonstrating systematic cognitive biases and heuristics that influence human judgment and choice. One of Kahneman's and Tversky's most influential contributions is prospect theory, which was introduced in 1979. Prospect theory describes how people make decisions involving uncertainty and risk. It suggests that individuals evaluate potential losses and gains relative to a reference point, often the status quo, and exhibit risk aversion for gains but risk-seeking behavior for losses, contrary to the predictions of traditional economic theory. Kahneman and Tversky identified various cognitive biases and heuristics that impact decision-making. For example, the availability heuristic, representativeness heuristic, and anchoring effect. Kahneman was able to prove through studies how the anchoring effect changes people decision-making, often irrationally, by changing initial numbers in questions asked in surveys. Another cognitive bias is the sunk cost fallacy, where costs that have already been incurred and cannot be recovered or changed by any current or future decisions clouds the decision-making process because of the money or time already invested. Examples include money spent on a non-refundable ticket, time invested in a project, or effort dedicated to a failing endeavor. Kahneman describes how individuals often fall into the trap of the sunk cost fallacy by continuing to invest additional resources, time, money, effort, into a project or decision simply because of the past investment, even if continuing the investment is not justified by future prospects or expected outcomes. These are key concepts that illustrate how individuals use mental shortcuts, heuristics, that can lead to predictable errors in judgment, biases. In 2002, the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences, there is no award for psychology, was awarded to Kahneman for his work. His pioneering work in integrating insights from psychological research into economic science, particularly his contributions to understanding human judgment and decision-making under uncertainty, was the foundation for behavioral economics. 2024, where it's going. After receiving the Nobel Prize, Kahneman continued to influence the fields of psychology, economics, and behavioral science through his research, writing, and lectures. He co-authored the best-selling book Thinking, Fast and Slow, 2011, which presents a comprehensive overview of his research and insights into human cognition and decision-making processes. Kahneman believes our brain has two systems, one that's fast, intuitive and automatic but is prone to biases and errors like overconfidence. The first system would be described by the fight or flee instinct in people. The second system is slow, analytical, deliberate and logical. In Moneyball, Michael Lewis looks at inefficiencies in baseball and explores how one team decided to look at a broader set of statistics to find inefficiencies or players that are undervalued. Thinking fast and thinking slow is an epistemological work that describes how we process information, learn and make decisions. It wasn't until after he published The Undoing Project did Lewis realize that Kahneman's research were instrumental and influential for many of his books like Liar's Poker, Moneyball and The Flash Boys. In each of his books, Mr. Lewis finds people who understand these cognitive biases and look to exploit the discrepancies in their particular industries. Mr. Lewis has proven over his career to be an excellent storyteller and one of the best nonfiction writers. He often speaks of his luck in finding such interesting characters in which to find amazing stories to tell. In Mr. Lewis' latest book, Going Infinite, The Rise and Fall of a New Tycoon, he tells the story of Sam Bankmen Fried, SBF, and the rise and destruction of his crypto firm FTX. Mr. Lewis couldn't believe his fortune to be introduced to SBF and to have complete access to him for over a year as the story unfolded. His book was released on October 3, 2023, on the day that SBF trial for corruption started. In his book and in subsequent interviews, Mr. Lewis portrays SBF as a reluctant and misunderstood businessman whose main goal was to earn enough money for altruistic philanthropy and to make the world a better place. Mr. Lewis seemingly portrays SBF as an Icarus-type character that got too big, too fast and flew too close to the sun. Unfortunately, this is not the case, as SBF used customer funds for trading and as philanthropy, which by any definition is theft. He was found guilty on 7 counts of fraud and was sentenced to incarceration for 25 years. Epilogue. It seems Mr. Lewis fell prey to several of the cognitive biases that he often wrote about and detailed in The Undoing Project. Spending a year as a fly on the wall may have anchored Lewis' image of SBF, or perhaps after sinking a year's work into the book, Lewis had trouble changing the main character from hero to villain. After a long and illustrious career, Mr. Lewis seems to be thinking fast while also forgetting to think slow. And now you know.